Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Okay guys, we're going to be seeing a video today and this one is titled Genius German Things That Should Exist Everywhere. Alright guys, so let's check this out without wasting much of our time. Okay,
Germany has had its share of geniuses. But should Germany be world famous for these genius things as well? Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I am Donnie, and along with my wife Aubrey, we are two Americans currently living in Germany with our baby, sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe. One thing we often stress in our videos about cultural differences between the US and Germany is that there may not always be a right and wrong way of doing things, simply just different cultures and different worldviews. Well, except for when it comes to poop shelf toilets. Germans definitely have that one wrong. But after living in Germany for 4 years and having tried to see the world from the German perspective to challenge our American upbringing, we have discovered a few things in Germany that, well, are actually just genius. And either we wish the US had these things or did it this way. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today in my video. I've got one thing to say. Let's do it the German way. First, let me say that we are originally from a southern US state called Oklahoma and now live in the German state of Rheinland-Pfalz. So maybe some of these things are more specific to our life experiences and places we have lived. So let me know your experiences with these things in the comments below. Whoa, stop. Who wrote this script? I didn't want to talk about zippers on clothing. Europe usually puts the zipper pulls on men's jackets on the wrong side anyways. Oh, I see what we did there, because I do actually want to talk about zippers, just not clothing zippers. I'm talking about Reißverschlussverfahren. Okay, imagine you were driving down the highway, you notice some signs for construction up ahead, and the left lane will soon be ending. What do? Well, in Germany, the answer is simple and genius. But in the US, specifically Oklahoma, it's a heated debate. No, really, Oklahomans actually debate this all the time.
Oh, this is a hot topic. What is the correct way to get out of a lane that's coming to an end? Well, we found there's no universal answer, but there's one method called the zipper merge that's gaining in popularity.
When I was growing up, I remember going on road trips, and as we approached construction and as a lane would be ending, my father would merge way in advance, and so would everybody else. We would drive along with the lane that would be ending still open for a long way, and some cars would zip down that line all the way to where the construction zone begins, then merge over. For many Oklahomans, including my father, at least back then, this was viewed as very rude and cutting in line.
I really get annoyed by drivers who actually do that. Because it's so rude.
Therefore, it was super common for my father, along with a lot of other drivers, to drive in both lanes in order to block those line skippers, aka zipper mergers, from getting up to the front of the line. Now in Germany, German drivers would probably find it a little scary how much debate and confusion there is amongst American drivers as to how to merge at construction sites, because in Germany it is fairly clear that the zipper merge is the way to go. In fact, it is written in black and white in the Straßenverkehrsordnung in paragraph 7, section 4. Drivers exhaust the entirety of both lanes and then file in where the lane ends, just like a zipper. And the science doesn't lie.
Studies show traffic moves 35 to 40% faster when drivers zipper merge.
Zipper merging really is better and should be made much more common in the US.
California maintains it's better to early merge, saying the zipper merge is a recipe for rear-enders.
Okay, but California does everything backwards, so I can't expect them to get it right. But come on, Oklahoma, let's figure it out. The next thing in Germany that I have found to be genius is their ice cream. So in the US, you have what I guess you would call American ice cream that we obviously just call ice cream. And this is the dominant form of this dessert. But in Germany, Eis can be a bit confusing because generally Germans don't always use different words to distinguish between ice cream and gelato, where Americans are very particular about making this distinction. Germans might call some ice cream assortments in Germany Amerikanisches Eis, or I've even seen ice cream American style if they know the difference. For example, Ben & Jerry's is an American ice cream brand which you can find in most places in Germany. But to be specific, gelato style of ice cream definitely is the dominant form in Germany. So really, this genius difference is thanks to Italians in Germany, but I experienced it in Germany, so that's why it's in this video. And no, gelato is not just the Italian translation for ice cream. They are scientifically different things. But what's the genius difference, you are asking? Well, in Germany, we usually just get the Edeka Gut und Günstig brand from the grocery store to eat at home. And the ice cream we always get in the US? Bluebell. Now, both of these are fairly good representations of the vastly different experiences of eating ice cream at home between Germany and the US. In the US, you want some ice cream, you grab your spoon, you grab the ice cream out of the freezer, you go to scoop it, and...
It's so hard.
In Germany, you do the same process, but when you go to scoop...
Oh, this is so easy. This is so easy. Oh, I think American style, they will have to like wait for the ice cream to melt a little bit so they can have access to like scooping it from the cup. Well, this German style of ice cream is actually better. You don't have to like go stress yourself trying to like scoop some ice cream, okay? Or maybe there's an ingredient they actually put in their own ice cream that makes it not to go so hard in the freezer. Okay, but let's find out in this video and see.
Legit, every time you get ice cream in Germany. Unlike in the US. Now, we learned this the hard way because in the US we are so used to ice cream being so hard when you first take it out of the freezer. You typically would actually let it sit on the counter for a little while as you wait for it to soften before trying to scoop it, or if you're impatient and don't have the forearm strength to manhandle out the scoops you want, you might even throw it in the microwave just for a couple of seconds to soften it a bit in order to serve it. So being used to doing this in the US, the first time we bought ice cream in Germany, we sat it out on the counter, and when we came back to serve it after letting it soften, we found just a pool of ice cream. That's when we learned, oh, in Germany, the ice cream is soft straight out of the freezer, and if you let it soften before serving, it's just going to completely melt. So why is ice cream so genius in Germany that they have engineered it to be soft and ready to enjoy straight out of the freezer? Well, since I am just an expert at eating ice cream, not an expert at making ice cream, I had to look online and I found that there are a couple of factors that contribute to the hardness differences, namely amount of fat, freezing temperature, and amount of air in the ice cream. So I try to compare the ingredients between these two brands and the nutritional information to compare the fat content, and they look to my untrained eye fairly similar in terms of the ingredients, and some variations exist in the fat content in minor ways. So from what I can tell, it seems like the secret actually is air. No, the air in Germany isn't pure or better, but the amount of air whipped into ice cream during manufacturing must be what's causing the texture difference. Now, I personally have never purchased American ice cream in Germany that is true American ice cream that you can also get in the US, like Ben & Jerry's. And in my research for this video, I did get curious as to whether or not it is sold as hard as American ice cream typically, or if it is Germanized and is soft. So this is gonna be a live on-camera test. I got my first ever Ben & Jerry's ice cream in Germany. I literally grabbed it out of the freezer just now and sprinted up here to see if it's soft or hard. Let's see. Oh.
This is really easy.
That's actually pretty soft. I wouldn't say it's as soft as normal German ice cream, but that does seem like it's softer than maybe what I would typically get in the US. That could be maybe a difference in the freezer temperatures, or it could be the fact that this is a super hot room with no air conditioning, and in the US we have air conditioning, so the houses are freezing as well, so it started melting quicker than it typically would in the US, but that's a good one. Real quick, I want to remind you guys that we now have Passport 2 merch, and I have links in the description of the video where you can go and check it out. If you're a fan of Passport 2 or just a fan of traveling and spreading peace and love like our logo looks like, then we have this stuff for you. I also want to take a moment to thank all of our patrons over on Patreon for their continued support through the years. I truly can never express my gratitude enough, and if any of you are interested in joining our Patreon, I also have links for that in the description. But if the rest of you guys wouldn't mind just hitting those like and subscribe buttons and leaving a comment on this video, that also goes an enormous way in supporting our channel, and I would really appreciate you doing that. Now, let's get back to the video. Germans are so much better in bed. At least designing beds. They are so much better at how they put together the bedding. What I mean is, in my personal opinion, German beds are so much more genius than the traditional and general American beds. To start, when you very first see a true bed that a German couple would use, you will see that they normally are made something like this. Whereas American beds will be made like this. This one German norm.
The American bed is something that's common here. That's what we use here, okay? But the German bed is kind of strange to me. Like, why is it designed like that? Well, let's find out in this video, okay?
That, to be completely honest, has tried to divide our family, and we have had to have many discussions about whether or not we will adopt it. I am in favor of going full German with this, but Aubrey just can't bring herself to become comfortable with, well, that is having separate duvets on the bed for each of us to have our own. Yes, in the US, when a couple sleeps in the same bed, there will always be just one comforter, duvet, sheet, or whatever the covering may be, and that's something that I never questioned until moving to Germany. However, in Germany, couples will each have their own duvet and not share between the two of them. And I don't think it can get any better than that, to be honest. I love the idea that we don't have to fight over the covers at night when one person rolls over and burritos themselves.
I personally think the German bed will cause division between couples. I mean, you guys are couples, right? You should be able to like share one duvet together. It is off for couples to have a bed like that. So I personally think the German bed is going to cause confusion. I mean, what if you want to cuddle with your partner? Like, how is it going to be? Okay, well, that's my own opinion. Okay, so let us know in the comment section what your opinion is. Is it, does the US bed does it for you, or the German bed? So let us know in the comment section, okay?
Wrap myself up in a shield from Aubrey's ice cold feet at night. Now, for Aubrey, she has said that she loves the closeness without any barriers when we have just one duvet. To her, it feels kind of like a modern day compromise of the separate twin beds for a couple you would see in the 1950s, for example. And in her opinion, the US has just completed the normal progression from separate twin beds to sharing the same bed and sheets, whereas Germans are stuck somewhere in the middle. But beyond just the separate duvets, Germans also have separate mattresses typically, which I also find genius and which we also unfortunately still have not compromised on. In the US, the value of having two separate mattresses is not an idea that is lost on Americans though. Just for some reason, we are stuck in the mindset that we must have one mattress on a bed, which it's actually funny to put it that way because in Germany, you actually can get stuck in between the two mattresses on a bed, which is a downside in this space between mattresses. That's you can crazy. Get stuck in between actually has a specific name called a Besucherritze or visitor's gap. Don't ask me why. I'm sure someone will write the answer for this name in the comments below. But in the US, we do have mattresses that, for example, have remote controls that allow the partners sleeping in the bed to manually select their own side's firmness or softness so they can have two different sleeping experiences. Or there are specialty split head mattresses in which you can adjust the head height for each partner. And some of those also even have the firmness adjustment for both sides as well. But is all of this over-engineered and overly expensive solutions to a simple problem? Maybe, which is why Germans in their efficient ways said, just put two separate mattresses on a bed, and if you don't like the gap, buy a gap filling piece, then we both can have the mattress we like. Genius. One of the most intimidating things about learning German, but what I find to be one of the most genius parts of the German language that I wish English had, is compound words. Okay, in English, we also have compound words like football, grandparent, fireman, anti-disestablishmentarianism. Only German allows for much longer and more complicated combinations like Bundesausbildungsförderungsgesetz, which actually is a relatively short word with only 33 letters compared to words like, well, this one, coming in at 63 letters. So you may look at this as a non-German speaker and say, well, why is that genius when it looks insanely complicated and cumbersome? Well, let's look at a smaller compound German word to understand why this is so genius. Faultier. What could this word mean? Well, faul would be translated as lazy and Tier as animal. What would be a lazy animal? A sloth. Okay, let's try something a little bit harder. Torschlusspanik. Well, we have Tor meaning gate, Schluss meaning closing, and Panik meaning, well, panic. So obviously this word means the gate closing panic you feel when your town is closing the city gate at night and you're going to be locked out. Well, at least it's a feeling that is similar to that medieval feeling, I guess, because it actually means the feeling you get like you're going to be missing out on something in life, such as marriage as you get older and are still single. But do you see the genius in this system? These incredibly long and scary German words are actually just a bunch of smaller words smushed together. Rather than when a word maybe doesn't exist in a language, a new invention comes along, or somebody has a hard time explaining an emotion, German allows for new words to be made using old words that everybody could understand rather than inventing up some new term that nobody else would be able to understand. For example, how often do you find yourself cooking a nice boiled egg but can't actually eat it? You try cracking it, rolling it, smashing it to get that delicious soft inside, but every time it just ends up being a crumble mess of shell and egg. What a mess. Well, not anymore, thanks to the German engineering and the Eierschalen-Zollprüfstellenverursacher. Yep, that is an actual tool in Germany, although the name technically is a gimmicky marketing stunt that takes advantage of the German language ability to create insanely long words. But that doesn't change the fact that a German could look at this word and read it as eggshell intended breaking point causer, or something like that. Oh, and this is a fun example because this word is like a Russian nesting doll where inside this compound word you have other compound words already. Sometimes words could even be infinitely long, like technically could be done with numbers, considering numbers in German are all spelled out as one word. For example, 999,999 is spelled like this. So the higher you count, the longer the word gets. But essentially, if English had the same rules as German, this old law, which is translated like this, would simply be written like this. So genius. To see who made it this far into the video, the random question of the week is, how often do you wash your jeans? Thanks so much for watching, guys. Be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and I will see you in our next video.
Okay, guys, this is indeed an interesting video. Okay, I think I love everything in this video except for the German bread. That's really off for me. It's not something I would love to use with my partner because I think it creates division. Okay, but for the shelf in the toilet, good. Every other thing in the video is good. So let us know in the comment section what you feel is genius in this video. Thank you for watching and see you guys on my next one. Okay, bye.